Good evening, fans from around the world. With Political Animals. With me today is Lerato and Mustafa Ginodu. We're going to be talking about the South African polls that is building up, which is scheduled to be held on the 29th of May. The political parties want to wrest the stranglehold of the ANC on the political power. And with me to discuss that is Mustafa once again and Lerato. Welcome, guys.
All right, guys, thank you for joining Political Animals. Whether you want to be a political animal or not, you are, because food is at stake, our lives are at stake. And right
Yeah.
now, the Rainbow Nation, which is what I consider to be one of the top three countries in Africa, not by importance, yeah, by importance, with Nigeria and Egypt and South Africa, are very important for geopolitical reasons and for the well-being of our country. And also, we want to also remember Gaddafi in Libya, who was taken down. So now we have a very important election in South Africa. Usually, I don't believe in voting, and I don't actually believe in that process. The way I think about democracy, democracy means the goodwill of the people and the good interest of the people must prevail. It's not about voting. It's about the goodwill and the good interest of the people for prevailing. And I want to start very quickly by saying that it has just been said on the news that a lot of money has been pumped into South Africa over the last couple of days, and the market is doing well. People are happy. The rand has gotten stronger. And this money has been pumped into ANC and DA interests by banks because they want to make sure that ANC gets more than 50% of the voting. And if ANC gets more than 50%, then the left groups like EFF, whether you like EFF or not, or Jacob Zuma, I wouldn't call him a left, but there's other interests in South Africa which are talking about nationalizing the Reserve Bank. Now, before I continue, every country should have control of its own reserve bank and it should be nationalized. Because if you don't do that, countries like the US and even China and Russia can control your economy. Now, the second thing that's at land is reappropriation of land. That's very sensitive. I am not promoting what some of the songs where people say kill the Boer and take their land. But what I am promoting is that South African land should be used as a resource for education, for housing, for service sector, so that all South Africans, white, black, the Indian population, the colored population, all of them should have proper resources because South Africa is richer than any country in Europe and should be a country at the same level of Russia and China. But now this is political talk. So I'm here with Lerato, who's not so much of a political person. I don't know if he wants to vote or not. And I respect that, Lerato. How are you doing, Lerato? Is he
Lerato?
on?
Lerato?
He's cut off. So we're going to have to continue with you, Afolabi. So,
Okay.
based on what I'm saying, what are your views on this political process and what I was saying about the fact that I don't want to tell people to not vote for ANC or to vote for EFF, but something has to change. And I think that with coalitions, we will see the country start to change in a way in which its resources need to be used for the people, black and white, and colored, Indian, Nigerians, Ghanaians, Mozambicans, everybody who lives in South Africa is a citizen because that's how countries work. We migrate. So continue, Afolabi. Yeah.
Yeah, basically, from what I see, the situation is very, very. South Africans are sick and tired of ANC, very influential, and they've had the stranglehold on power for such a long time. And so the left wing EFF are considering coalition to try and wrest the power from them because it appears they can do it on their own. I think it's high time we get a coalition that can wrest power from the ANC because there are so many issues. South Africans are tired of basic things like water, frequent blackouts. For a country as industrialized and advanced as South Africa, you wouldn't expect that under a regime such as the ANC, there'll still be, experiencing high unemployment rates. A lot of young South Africans don't have jobs. The regime is ridden with corruption, and that has eroded public trust. So people want the left wing, but it appears the left wing doesn't have now and the influence to surge through. So probably an alliance with the DA and some other minority parties might bring them good, really, at the end of the day. But there's so many issues that have made South Africans really.
Yeah. and I want to say something. If we know that ANC will win, okay, but if ANC should get less than 50% or go down as low as 38%, they're going to have to coalesce with EFF and maybe Zuma's party, or they can do a very controversial move in which they coalesce with DA. And if they
Yes,
coalesce with DA, the Democratic Alliance, which I don't want to get banned,
of
we'll just say Western. It
yes.
starts
Even
with a
their
W.
leader, the leader of
Yeah.
DA, John Sten Houston, hinted at a possible coalition with the African National Congress.
Yeah, and if that
If
happens, South Africa is finished. I'm going to go
yes,
on record as saying if that happens, because then we know what DA stands for. They stand for WE, not WHIT.
yeah, yeah,
WE, Western interests. And
yeah, because they're
we will
already
see the
envisaging
corruption.
losing their majority, and once that happens, they won't
Yeah.
have as
And if they
much
lose their
influence
majority,
anymore.
they may very well go to DA, and that'll be bad for South Africa. And if that happens, I trust that the people of South Africa will, the next time elections, EFF will continue getting more votes, and Jacob Zuma's group will get more votes. And it's clear to me that Zuma's group should join with EFF. Now, I'm not telling people to vote for them because at times we have to take a stronger stance and say that elections is not the answer for South Africa. I'm going to get to that soon. Is
But there was a
Lorato with us? Yeah.
significant,
Yeah,
there
yeah,
was a
yeah.
significant,
I'm here.
okay, Lerato is there,
Okay.
so Lerato, give it a shot.
No, continue. Falabi, continue. Then we'll go to Lorato. Yeah.
Okay, what I wanted to say was there was a significant update today about Jacob Zuma not being eligible to stand for parliament because of his conviction and his sentencing in 2021. So that might just have dealt some of his aspirations a blow ahead of the elections. I just had that a couple of minutes ago before the show.
Yeah, that sounds like a last movement. But even if they do that, his number two can take over. So
Oh, I see.
personally, I think Zuma he's a showman. He's a showman. But I think it's very good to have competition in South African elections because unless there's competition, things won't be done for people. But when there's for example, in the U.S., Biden is willing to just bomb people in Israel. But because the people in Israel, the people in America are tired of it, he's now changing his position. So ANC needs to have competition from EFF and Zuma. But I don't trust EFF and Zuma also, but I trust that the process might lead to some slight changes. What are your thoughts, Lorato?
Yeah, yeah, man. Actually, I think, all these like polls and percentages are very interesting to listen to. But I think what we, or at least in what I've been thinking about is actually, which leads back to the conversation we were having the other day when I said we'll maybe speak about the ANC in more detail,
Yes,
because
yeah,
when we look at the ANC and the history of the ANC from inception, it has been problematic to African progress,
okay,
and I think the problem with where we are now in the political education amongst the general populace in general is that they are not aware of, they're not fully educated on the scope of issues that are on the table when it comes to what they need to vote for, what they need to vote about. That
yes,
what you're saying is, as democracy being in its current state very fallible, because it has a top down sort of,
yes. It's not about the interest of the well-being of the
yeah,
people. It's
yeah,
just it's the interest of
as opposed
majority
to,
power. Yeah, yeah.
yeah,
Go
yeah,
ahead.
as opposed to a bottom up kind of approach, which is actually what got the apartheid regime overthrown and
Yes,
the
yes,
ANC into power, because when we were growing up in the 90s, there were a whole lot of street committees and things like that. I mean, the first time I heard about Nelson Mandela, for example, was at a meeting my uncle took me to, at what used to be like a Shabin type of thing,
yeah.
like two
I
houses
also I
away
have
from.
my shebeen here. I have my shebeen here.
Yeah, yeah.
Continue.
You know
Continue.
what I mean?
Continue. Yeah. Yeah.
So there used to be that level of communal engagement
Yeah.
into the politics of the day, and which is something that is missing now. So any polls or any decisions or any electoral anything that is happening within the next week is happening within a vastly uninformed populace of
Yes,
what
yes,
what
yeah.
what
But
this space is, what this country is,
yeah,
in the way that you highlighted its geopolitical importance.
yes,
You
it's
know,
very. A lot of things are important. So I think that we know number one that South Africa is moving towards BRICS, no matter who wins,
yeah,
because
yeah,
the world is changing because the U.S. dollar has to go down. And I'm not promoting China and Russia, but they have a model
yeah.
in which
We
your
don't.
money
I don't know if that will happen if the DA
ANC. Yeah, and
has
thank
some
you for
hold
saying that.
on power.
Yeah, thank you for saying that. So ANC and Ramaphosa does not want to go to BRICS, but he's under pressure right now. So he's doing a little bit with them. But if ANC should get more than 50% and go with DA, it's not going to happen. I personally believe that South Africa will be back straight owned by Britain and the US. What are your thoughts, Lorato? Thank you for that point. Yeah.
Yeah, yeah. I mean, we're still grappling to get out of these neo-colonial, or neoliberal grips. Um, because the economic influences are still,
Continue. I have a call. Continue. Okay. Okay.
yeah, are still very, very, very Western when we think about them. Um, when we think about, for example, if we are speaking about Cyril, when we think about Marikana, as an occurrence within the new democratic dispensation, um, which was a massacre that happened against black people to defend white economic interests, or Western economic interest. They were defending London minerals. I mean, the national police in this
Sorry, Lorato. I
country.
had to leave very quickly. Who are you
Yeah,
talking
yeah,
about? You
yeah.
talking about ANC? Yeah. Or
I'm speaking about how we are still sort of battling.
oh yeah, yeah.
I think one would say that the soul of the ANC is, or of the country, hangs in the balance between the West and the BRICS.
BRICS, yes.
Uh,
And can I add one more
yeah,
point? I'm not
yeah,
saying that BRICS is the best, but we don't have an alternative now. And I think we need to enter into BRICS because BRICS is trading with your resources. And then it's up to us. If we allow China and Russia to beat us, if we have corruption, they'll beat us. But if we
yeah,
take control of our resources and give them fair prices for our resources and pump the money for our resources back into our education, we can compete with them. But I think what China and Russia believe is that once we get into BRICS, we will still have internal problems, so we'll still be dependent on them. What do you think? Yeah, yeah.
yeah.
It's
Well, I mean,
very complicated. But continue. Sorry,
it's,
go
it's
ahead. Yeah, yeah.
complicated, but I think what I see them posturing to do, and I'm not saying this is what they're doing, but what they are posturing to do is to strengthen the South African
I think so. Yeah.
dynamic,
And can I say one more
so,
thing?
so,
I
so
think
that
that
we can be a little bit more self-sufficient. So
So here's my argument for people who say that China is bad or Russia is bad. We have to remember that China is a productive nation and they need the
yeah,
world to be stable. They need the world to be stable. So they need South Africa to be stable for them to do well. So China
true,
has what we
true.
call a win-win policy, which is where they
Yes,
win and you win because we have mutual interest. It's kind of like you, Lorato. You're on my show now, or I call it our
yeah,
show, but you're on this show, which is the platform I started. But I'll come to your show because we have mutual beneficial. You add value to me. And I think that's the model that China is using in Russia, whereas the
yeah,
American model is to conquer and to just colonialize you. That's not their method. Sorry to interrupt you. Continue with your thought. Yeah, yeah, yeah.
yeah. So I think I do think that perhaps, I mean, the Russia, China, or the BRICS approach um, can be seen to be revolutionary in terms of changing global
Yes,
dynamics, right?
dynamics. Yes,
And it's imperative so that we sort of decrease the leverages that these previous houses of empire uh,
yes,
have
yes,
have
yes.
had have had on us,
And I want to
which
say one thing.
yeah,
South Africa invited President Putin to South Africa And they said, oh, if Putin comes there, you have to arrest him. South Africa said no. But Putin accommodated South Africa and said, don't worry, I don't need to come. I can talk to you from where you are. He showed respect for South Africa's international integrity. He didn't want to put South Africa on the spot. And we want to say that whether or not you like Russia or anything, I always say I'm not racist. We live in a world. We live with people from China, India, Brazil, Russia, America, Canada, and we all have to work together. And what we're seeing with
Yeah,
BRICS is work. But I will say that after we join BRICS, we still have a lot of problems to solve in South Africa. Gender violence, violence towards women, drug issues. So there's still a lot of problems, but we should never say Brooks is wrong. Sorry for cutting in front of you one more time, but this is political animals, Larato. Sorry. Yeah.
yeah,
Okay.
man. But yeah, I think yeah. So what is, I mean, even this entire BRICS dynamic that we are speaking about, I'm not entirely sure how a lot of people are on the ground are speaking and engaging about
And they
it.
need to. And this goes to back
Yeah,
to what you said about our population needs to be informed. Continue. Yeah.
yeah, about the uninformed population. But the fact that the ANC has such a majority hold of power shows that the derailment of what the liberation movement
Yes, and it
would
is,
have been
and I'm glad
from,
that you're saying it because you're a South African citizen.
from like the 1890s
Yeah.
with Bambata and
Yeah.
the Bambata
And
revolution.
also I don't want to take the stance where people insult Madiba and say he's this and that. We have to remember that Madiba and even Zuma, when they were younger, they were actually liberation movement people. It's just that it was hijacked later on. And that tends to happen because when people become later, you put them in jail, you threaten them, they sort of compromise. So what do you think? Yeah.
Yeah, yeah. I mean, though, there were certain compromises that I suppose would have been
Yeah.
from their perspective unavoidable. But I still think um, Mandela would have been a lot more. He could have pushed a little bit more with his influence,
Yeah.
uh,
I
because
want to say personally,
he had
when I was
one
young,
of the greater
go ahead, you
influences
continue. You continue. Sorry. Yeah,
yeah,
sorry.
than any other leader after him, or possibly even before him. Maybe
Yeah, I think that going him being in jail in 20 for 28 years, it I won't say it broke his spirit, but it almost broke his spirit. So that by the time he came out, he was diminished. Now let's talk about Zuma. What do you think about Zuma and MK? I still think Zuma is the populist. I think Zuma loves KZN. I think he loves KZN. KZN. What do you think? Yeah.
yeah. I mean, it's his home base.
Yeah, and I think he loved it, but I think he needs to go beyond the tribalism. But continue. Yeah, yeah, yeah.
Yeah. Well, there's always been bits and pieces of that within the ANC.
Yeah.
You know, when Nelson Mandela and Mbeki were in the presidency, there was some sort of Xhosa
Friction.
leaning
Yeah. Kosa, yeah.
allegiances. Yeah, and there
And
was that
Tabo and Becky
friction.
Kosa also. Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah. Then there was that friction between him and Zuma,
Yeah.
and it was
And I
almost like
think we
a
have the same problem in Nigeria. And I think that's it's unhealthy, but it's healthy too. We just need to move a little bit beyond it. So very quickly, what are your thoughts on Malema? Quickly, I'm going to say that Malema has the right idea about nationalizing the bank and about redistributing land. But I want to think, but I still think he still has money from the West. So we need to keep a close eye on him also. But I think he's a healthy environment. And also, Malema, back in 2008, he fought with Zuma and those guys when he was a young guy rising up in ANC youth. So I think he has talents. I think he's a wonderful person that we should be proud of. But I also think we need to be more critical of him at the same time. What are your thoughts? Yeah.
yeah. You know,
You say, yo, you have to think about that one.
yeah, you know, like the issue of the EFF in particular is it is kind of like a sore point in what, in my view, was the revolutionary trajectory of the young people of this country. You know,
Yeah, yeah.
in as much as it still carries a lot of that energy forward, it derailed
It's
a
also
lot
been
of.
hijacked. It's been hijacked. Yeah, yeah.
Yeah. They actually, what it has done is that it has subverted a very strong movement that was on the up and up when the EFF came into play. What this was when in 2014, 2013,
Yeah, around 2013. Yeah.
something like that. Uh, so prior to that, there were a lot of on the ground conscientization movements that were happening,
Yeah.
that I was following closely. Because you remember you spoke the other day about Andile Ngutama.
Andile, yeah, yes, Andile. Give a
Yeah,
shout out to
yeah,
the young
yeah,
man. Yes, thank you. Yes.
yeah. You remember that he was part of the EFF
Yeah, and then he
at,
broke off from them. Yeah, yeah.
at its inception because they did not want to adopt certain key and foundational um, principles of Black consciousness. Of uh, I think mainly excuse me. I think mainly the
Bless
one.
you, young man.
Yeah,
Bless you.
yeah. I
Yeah.
think mainly the one thing that they speak about is this the Sankara Protocol. Uh,
Thomas Sankara from Burkina Faso. Thank you. Yeah.
yeah. Where they were advocating for policy to be embedded within the manifesto of the EFF that would
Yeah.
say
So
public officials need to use public um, facilities, right? This is the one way that you solve these problems that we're facing.
Oh yes. So can I say quickly what that means is that if you have to use public facilities, you'll make sure that the public facilities are very well
Are well
infrastructured.
taken. Yeah,
Yeah,
are well
but
taken.
once you become elite, so very quickly, I'm going to let you continue. I'm not dissing Julius Malema. I think he's brilliant, but I think he's become too much of a demagogue, and we have to question why he doesn't want the public thing, or does he want to be the standing supreme leader? Kind of like four legs good to like Animal Farm. You know what I mean by Animal Farm, Lerato, where
Yeah. No, for sure.
the revolutionary becomes the I don't want to call Julius Malema a tyrant, but he
Yeah. No,
becomes
I
he,
understand
yeah,
that Orwellian sort of
yeah,
flick. I mean, it happened with the ANC itself,
yeah,
right?
yeah,
So where the racial sort of struggle became a class struggle,
yeah,
or class separation, which is something like I'm saying dates back to 1912, um, when when the ANC sought to separate itself, or those people who were part of the founding members of the ANC sought to separate themselves from the other natives,
yeah.
the uneducated natives. I think um, we can maybe refer to Mahmoud Mamdani's idea of the citizen and the subject.
Yeah. And
That
the
then
revolution has to be at the grassroots level with the subject, which is the problem I had with
yeah,
Fanon. Fanon did not want to go and realize that Africa has indigenous groups with voodoo, with Ubuntu. They never addressed those things. They went towards communism, which is nothing wrong with Marxism, but that's the European movement, which is still educated elite, and it's not grassroots. Continue, Lorato. Thank you.
yeah. So that's the idea of the educated elite coming to liberate the rest of the populace. So
Yeah.
so then what you inadvertently have 100 years on is you have this what Biko actually prophesized, to say that you will find this 20 20% of black people that move into the echelons of
Yeah.
of
And so
upper
in America, we
capital.
had it. In America, it was called the 1% with Du Bois.
Yeah,
W.E.B. Du
yeah,
Bois. And it's the same
yeah.
problem. And these
I,
guys, that's
I
why
think it,
I always tell
Mustafa,
I
people
think
being,
it was
Mustafa,
the 1% in 1912
Mustafa.
yeah.
when the
Our
ANC was
our other
founded.
friend is around.
Oh, yeah, I saw him coming in, but we're in the middle of a great flow right now.
Okay,
Lorato,
okay,
Yeah,
I
yeah,
want to
sorry.
thank you. And I'm going to say this, and I think Afolabi agrees with me. Lorato, you are such a valuable addition to our team. What do you think,
Oh,
Afolabi?
I do. You have so
Very
much
beautiful. So
insight.
So
And
let let.
I like the way you are picking your points systematically and slowly
Oh, he's very good.
articulating.
He's making me jealous a
Very
little bit.
poetic.
But okay, Salim, how are you, Salim? But we're going to finish with Lorato, then we'll come to you, Salim. Greetings, Salim. Salim Saidi,
Peace,
who's in
Ali.
Mpumalanga. Okay, yeah, yeah.
Yeah, yeah.
Greetings, Salim. Yeah, yeah.
So,
Okay, continue, sir. Continue.
so we have to sort of put this backdrop, or in terms of the history of the ANC that puts us here. That I think who was it who was speaking about. But I think maybe then back to the idea of the citizen and the subjects, right? So
Yes.
these black elites were edging for citizenship, fighting for the vote.
And they
Uh,
wanted to be part of a white capitalist system. They just wanted incorporate.
exactly.
Same thing with Martin Luther King. Martin Luther King, they wanted to be part of it. But being part of it drowns out black consciousness because when you wake up, you will have no more interest
Yeah,
toward African rights. Yeah. Yeah.
you're right to bring up MLK, because he said we fought so hard for this integration, but it looks like we've
It was rubbish.
integrated into a burning
And
house.
that's when they got rid of him. That's when they got rid of him when he woke up. Because they said, "Oh yeah, you
Yeah,
can vote." But then when he started fighting for the rights of every American, black, white, everything, and said we need to stop the war in Vietnam, he now became the most hated man in history in America. Not in
of
America.
course.
He was hated in America,
They,
and that's
they,
when he was killed. Yeah. And we don't have
they will
proof.
have
We don't have
yeah.
proof, but we believe that the U.S. government was behind it. Continue. Yeah.
Yeah. No, they were happy to vilify Malcolm X,
The black
and have him as a villain, until he started also sort of connecting
Yeah,
the
and also
struggles
Malcolm X.
as well.
Yeah, and also Malcolm X went to Islam. He went to Mecca, and he also said whites can join. I agree with him, but once he started to tone down his rhetoric, they accepted him. Then they killed Martin Luther King. Martin Luther King was becoming more radical, and Malcolm X was becoming less radical. Would you agree? I'm not saying Malcolm X was wrong, but he was becoming less radical before he got killed. Yeah, yeah.
Yeah, I think he was becoming a little bit more realist.
Realist,
Uh,
and that's what we're pushing
yeah,
for. Thank you.
and I think he was starting to break through something. The same thing that Fred Hampton was
Fred
starting
Hampton,
to
yeah. And
break
they
through
killed Fred Hampton in his sleep.
when
Policeman.
they killed it.
Yeah,
So
yeah.
the same dynamic sort of comes into play once they start to see that actually what we are battling is not so much a racial thing, in as much as there are racial dynamics
Yeah.
that are controlling this thing, but it's a classist system.
Class and it's class and it's ideology. And I'm going on record as saying my ideology is humanism. Continue. Yeah.
Yeah. So 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 we see that in the history of the ANC, even when the PAC broke away from it in the 1950s,
Yeah.
it was on the basis of
Okay.
some of these things.
Okay.
And I remember actually I was listening to a Malcolm X speech, where he was talking about what a revolution means, and he says a revolution is about land. You
It's
know,
land, and that's what
uh,
Malema is saying. But the problem that Malema is making, he needs to tone down the rhetoric about shoot the boar. I don't care what it means. It may not really mean, but he needs to tone it down. And I think he needs to reframe it in that African land should serve everybody on African soil, and we should all be equal, and we should all prosper because we have enough resources. What do you think, I said I was about to call you Malema. What do you think, Lorato? Then we'll go to Salim. What do you think, Lorato? Yeah.
yeah. I think I
Also,
mean
sorry, continue your thing. I don't want to interrupt your thought. Continue your thought about Malcolm X talking about land because a lot of people don't know that. And then we'll go to
yeah,
Salim. Continue that. Yeah.
yeah. I mean it. The idea of speaking to land speaks to this idea of how the black elite then comes in and derails
Yes.
the movement
And they
from
joined the
it
bank. They joined the banks.
yeah, for it to being about land, to it being about um, citizenship, even
Citizenship.
though even though we don't necessarily have a firm grasp of what this definition of citizenship means. As I was referring earlier to Mahmoud
Mahmoud,
Mamdani,
yeah. Yeah.
Yeah, when he speaks about what the citizen is and what the subject is, because you can have a group of subjects that are just like a voting block, but are
Yeah,
not
voting block. Yeah.
necessarily, yeah,
So I'm going
are
to
not
pause you here.
necessarily.
So here's what I believe. I live in the U.S. and I have a U.S. passport, but I am not a citizen. And I'm going to say this because I am black. The U.S. is a white supremacist nation. They'll let me vote,
Yeah,
but I am not a human being in this country, and I will stand by that. Which is why I am not American. I am Nigerian, I am African, and I am a citizen of the world, but I am not American because the definition of an American to me is anti-black. I am not a citizen. I am a cow or a piece of a slave who can vote to put some powerful people in hand. What do you think, Lorato? Then we'll go to Salim. Yeah.
yeah, and that's exactly that, right? And how you can tell how people are treated as citizens is how from the ground level how the municipality treats them, how they give them
Yes,
water,
and that's the public good.
how they give
Here's a
them
story,
electricity,
a very quick
how they
story. When
give
I was in Cape Town, there was a white girl who was 5 years old who fell into the water by one of the bays or something, and within 2 minutes, helicopter saved her life. That's
yeah
resources being used to save white life, and I'm glad they saved her life. I am not racist. I'm glad they saved her life. But when children in the townships or locations are getting beaten up and molested, there are no services for them, no social services, no
they
medical
they
care, nothing.
they they drown because they have to cross over flooded rivers to get to school.
Yes.
If during the rainy season, that's what
Yeah. So
happens,
thank you.
right?
So Lorato, I don't want to cut you short, but we're going to have to continue this on Friday. Can you come on Friday?
Yeah, I can
You
make
have to
time.
think for a second. But we're going to continue this. But I want to give our young brother Salim Saidi a chance to talk. But
Yeah.
Lorato, thank you very much. You've added to our show, and you're going to be around forever until I don't want to say until one of us until heaven and the end of time comes. Thank you, Lorato. Thank you very much. But we're
Pleasure.
going to continue next time with your vote because I know you're not big on voting. You're on Black consciousness and what to us political means how the society and the grassroots organizes ourselves with Ubuntu or Voodoo. But we're going to talk more about that on Friday. So Salim, how are you doing today, sir?
Very good. Actually, not very good. I'm very tired, actually.
Okay, so very quickly,
Yeah.
don't worry, I'm tired too, but I have my wine and I've been working 60 hours a week. Very
All
quickly,
right.
I know you are a supporter of Zuma and MK. Tell us why we should vote for him. Yes.
After a few conversations with people older than me, for
Yeah.
some time, they gave me reasoning on. I was not really familiar with the land reform, if I'm correct, in South Africa, and
Very quickly, you just mentioned land, which is what Lorato mentioned, and which is what I started off with uh Malema. So land is
yeah.
important. Thank you. Continue. Yeah.
And going back to the roots, the ground roots of South Africa being not only ruled by the president itself, but chiefs,
Yeah.
izinkosi, in other words, the chiefs in KwaZulu
Yeah.
Natal, in Mpumalanga, in anywhere, Limpopo, going further, you understand that we have to go back to square one, having to have like land amongst black people, amongst whites, if possible. Not to say that they don't deserve it at all, because there are some their ancestors are the main reason we are segregated
Can
in
I
a way.
interrupt you very quickly? I want to state this point. Whites in South Africa are South Africans just due to the history, and they're not going anywhere. And the solution to South Africa means whites, blacks, Indians, so everybody needs to learn a system that gets together. Continue. Yeah.
Guys,
Very
we
true,
have
very
less
true,
than a
very
minute.
true.
We need to quickly round up.
Okay. Well, we might have to do a second link, but round up Salim. We'll end today.
Okay,
Round up Salim. Yeah.
should I send the second link?
Yeah.
Well,
Let's send the second link. So we'll continue.
okay.
Charging small
Afalabi, what
amount of.
happened? Did you start recording late? Did you record this, Afalabi? Yeah.
I think it was the network.
But you started it before, right? Yeah.
Yes, I did.
And then it cut off and came back on again.
Yes, exactly. So
Okay,
let's just
continue.
continue.
Continue. Yeah. Okay.
Charging less price for coal. I mean, coming from here and noticing that there are so many trucks coming out of Delmas going to specific harbors and delivering coal that would be sent to the western sides, to Europe, for instance, and South Africa just takes chump change.
But yeah, but hold on. So how is that connected with nuclear? They wanted South Africa to move away from nuclear and go to coal mining, right?
Well, No, they wanted South Africa to move from coal mining to nuclear, in other words,
Okay,
because
so that they can take
uh
South African coal.
yeah, very true, very true.
Yeah, yeah.
The likes of Shell Garage have hand in it. They also have hand in it. A lot of political powers in the United States have hand in it. Australia itself, they also have hand in it.
And they don't pay the workers to these miners, which is why they kill guys. And very quickly, I
They're
feel like, remember what I
exploiting
told
them.
you? Australia, the U.S., and Canada are involved in logistics for bombing Palestinian kids, and they also are involved in South Africa. We need to open our eyes and see what's going on. Continue, Salim. Yeah.
Uh,
I
and
feel like he's laughing because he knows I'm a crazy guy. I tell the truth. Continue. Yeah. Yeah.
and 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 going and you're correct. In the Western Cape, there's a guy who's from the UK actually, who actually got a political party. Not Steenhuisen. Steenhuisen is in DA, but this guy is from Britain. He's a citizen
Yeah.
in South Africa. That's what he says practically. And I remember scrolling down on TikTok. There's a lot of what's it called? People who are actually trying to vote him out and say that no, you know what? He has no right to have a party in South Africa. He has to go back to England. Um, and he has no say because he wants to separate the Western Cape from the whole of South Africa and say the
Oh
Cape
yeah.
independent.
Well, here's the thing: Western Cape is funded by French and Belgian and German banks. They own all the farms and everything. And I always tell people, Western Cape is not an African country; it's actually a European country. Continue. Yeah.
Very true, very true.
Yeah.
And it's also run by the Stellenbosch mafia. Most of the
Be
political
very
parties.
careful because we want you to still stay alive to be on our show.
Very true, very true,
Erato
very
is
true,
back.
very true.
Yeah. Continue.
Uh,
Continue. Yeah.
and it's I think they're not even hiding it anymore. Like if they
Oh,
were
they don't
hiding it,
have
I
to
would be
hide it.
scared.
They don't
They don't
hide it
hide it
because
anymore.
they have their interests. It's the same thing
Very
with the
true.
guys bombing Palestine. They're not hiding it. No, they're not
You
hiding it.
see,
Yeah.
so with pride, I would say that here in South Africa, we already know which political party is actually run by the Stellenbosch mafia. The drugs that are entering South Africa, it's locals. We can talk about foreigners the whole day, but it's also locals themselves. We know
Yeah.
that the Italian mobs are here, the Russian mobs are here, all of them are here.
And can I
That's
say
fact.
something? And can I say something? I was in South Africa in 2008. SA Airlines was bringing drugs into the country, giving it to the Tanzanians and the Nigerians. Anytime you attack a foreigner for selling drugs in South Africa, you have to remember that your government and your airlines is the wholesaler, and the
Very
Nigerians
true.
and the Tanzanians and the colored guys are the small sellers. But the whole country is involved. It's the whole country. It's the mafia. And
Because
also,
it's a
if anything
cartel.
happens to me, you guys, if this is the last day I live, I love you guys. Okay, is Lorato with us? Yeah.
No, he's still having problems with his
Oh yeah,
sound.
don't worry, he's fine. So last starts Salim,
Uh,
and then Afolabi will take us out. Yeah,
and just to add on what you said about the SAA,
airline. Yeah, yeah,
it was owned by South Africa. They wanted to this last year or last of last year. They wanted to make it what's it called a private sector, a private. They wanted to sell it to a private sector. In other words, so the question is why? So it
well,
means
you have to follow the money and follow the banks.
yeah, very true, very true,
Yeah.
very true. And now I think the only banks that you can actually trust in South Africa now is like Capitec and African Bank, and Time Bank. Those are only three. ABSA,
Nedbank criminals,
Nedbank.
man. Yeah.
Oh, Nedbank is also South African owned, if I'm correct.
Oh, okay, maybe
Uh,
but they're owned by Afrikaan. Yeah, yeah, yeah.
yeah, yeah.
I thought
Standard
Stanbic was
Bank,
South African as well. Stanbic.
Standard Bank.
Oh, it's standard. Okay.
Yeah, Standard Bank. I think they manipulated the rand. In other words, I don't know. It was the case this year,
Hmm.
2024, where there was I think they even went to court. They said over and number one, Jacob Zuma mentioned it that a lot of people are going to cry, and yes, a lot of people are crying now. The rand was manipulated by those specific banks, ABSA, Standard Bank, and I think there's a foreign bank that's in South Africa at the moment that's actually also manipulating the rand. And now he actually says, you know what? Why not? Why don't we just remove all these banks? We use these specific banks.
Well,
And I don't,
also,
and I,
so So the left, EFF and other people are talking about nationalizing the bank. Does Zuma want to do that? I don't think Zuma has given us specifics yet for MK. Yeah.
Not yet, not yet, not yet. I think he's still waiting for the right moment to actually start implementing such. Let's not forget that they were close friends with Muammar Gaddafi. Number one,
Oh yes,
him
and
Shapir
Gaddafi
Sheikh.
was going to change our monetary system. Salim,
Exactly.
you're very brilliant. Salim is only 25. I'm 50. I wish I was as smart as you when I was 25. Continue.
I think we should thank the internet for all of that and specific books.
But you did your study. You did your study.
Yeah,
So,
yeah. So
so Salim, we're going to continue on Friday, but I want to thank you very much. And I'm saying this from the bottom of my heart. You are a very good addition to our family, to form not Formula One. This is not Formula One. To African to
Political
political
animal.
animals. Political animals, and you're giving us good knowledge, and you've connected the dots with Gaddafi because Zuma defended Gaddafi during when the U.S. wanted to assassinate Gaddafi. He didn't take Gaddafi's side, but he said South Africa will not take part in it. Continue. Yeah.
very true, very true. And there was a I think Ugandan president, very close friend of Muammar Gaddafi. I
Museveni?
think
No, no, not
yeah,
Museveni.
Museveni. It's
Yeah.
Museveni. He
Yeah,
said
we
he
know
will
our
not
shit. We know our shit. Go ahead. Yeah.
I think he was warned by the Westerns that you do not interfere. You should never interfere. He was told he didn't have a choice.
Yeah,
I
and we
think
don't blame him. We don't blame him for
yeah,
stepping back. Yeah.
yeah, he didn't have a choice. And this is also where it confuses me that, even looking at South Africa itself, um, we as the black people go against one another. I mean, we talk about the unity of black people in every manifesto as political parties and all of that. We back our black people, but when it's about time that you have to back them up, they all disappear.
We
There's
don't do
like,
it. We
no,
don't
just
do it. We don't do
you
it.
understand.
Yeah, we don't do it.
So a funny story. I think one of these guys from the Patriotic Alliance, the president of the Patriotic Alliance, mentioned something about somebody sending a peace call basically to Jacob Zuma, and he was like, you know what, I wanted to give this person a call. I don't know how to give him a call because he's old. So he's like, I don't know how to. Could you help me give this person a call? A random person. He was like, I would give this person. At that time, he was the president. Let's not forget that he was the president at that time. So
Yes,
my question
yes.
is, if he is good, if he has that humanity in him, regardless
To
of
answer a phone call. To answer a phone call from
it tells you
anybody.
a lot. It tells you a lot about that
If I
specific
want to call,
person.
if I want to call Biden and say, Biden, please stop what you're doing in Israel, they'll say, who are you? But Zuma is accessible to the people. You're right. Continue.
So
Yeah.
at least we have access to him. We can have conversations with him, regardless. If
Yeah.
it has to happen that, you know what, we have a problem as a community because the communities in KwaZulu Natal, they are much closer to him. They can go to him and be like, no, you know what, we have a problem, and we
So
need
Salim,
a
Salim, can
solution.
I add one thing? Salim, what tribe are you in South Africa? Is that your son?
At the,
Hello. Yeah, yeah. I see your son.
it's my
Your,
it's
your,
my
ne-
little brother.
your
It's my
brother.
little brother.
Okay. What tribe are you? I want to ask you that quickly. Yeah.
Um, Originally, I'm gonna talk on my father's side because my mom is Zulu actually.
Malawi, yeah. But you don't
Yeah,
have. But what I'm trying to say is that you're not Zulu, but what you're doing is showing you're going beyond tribalism because you're talking about what Zuma did. I want to add one more thing. Have you heard that in the 70s or the 80s, Zuma stopped a civil war within Zululand where they were killing each other.
very
He
true.
came inside and he caused peace. Remember that?
Very true. Very
Yeah.
true. Very true.
Now
Yeah.
Zuma may be a womanizer who takes a shower after sex, so he doesn't get
Yeah.
But the point I'm making is that Zuma is a good person. He doesn't
Very
like
true.
violence. He doesn't like violence. You
Very
understand what
true.
I'm saying? So what I'm
Yeah.
trying to say is that I want to thank you for the information. So finish your thoughts about what Zuma did, so that the fact that we can call him and talk to him and he's down to earth. Then we're gonna end with Afolabi. Yeah, okay.
No problem. So I think even the copycat Ramaphosa started doing that, going house to house, visiting people. That was
Too
a
late.
copycat, in other words.
Too late. After you killed the miners. Yeah, too late.
I mean, we have he's a criminal. He's a criminal on paper. I would say this with pride. He's a criminal. He's a mass genocide. In other words, he
No, he's a
created
criminal. I'm
mass
going to say this
genocide.
on TV. He killed those miners in Lomine. I don't care what anybody says.
Very true.
He did it.
Very
Continue.
true.
Continue.
Very true. So I'm not going to have anything to say that I have sympathy for. Nah, let him run again for president. No, he doesn't deserve it. Not at all. You
And
understand?
also, is Ramaphosa Zulu?
No, not really. He's not.
Kosa
He's
or
not. Zulu.
yeah, I
I
don't know. But
think.
continue. Yeah, okay.
Uh. So yeah. So having a person like Zuma as president, or not even president, because I don't think he's gonna run for president anymore. It's basically just trying to get a seat
To
in
help the
parliament.
party, MK party.
Yeah, get a seat in parliament and implement whatever they have to implement to actually better. Number one, the most important in South Africa, the elderly, the youth, because the youth has to grow. We have a lot of
Yeah,
skillful people.
you it's Falabi. In
Yeah,
Nigeria, we say the youth shall grow.
yeah. So young shall grow.
The young shall grow. So what you're saying is important, and I think Zuma is sort of in the middle ground. He's not perfect. He has problems.
Mm.
He's a little bit corrupt, but I think Zuma and Mbeki were the best presidents we had. What do you think? Yeah, yeah.
On number one. I wouldn't
I'll
even
say
dispute with
both.
that.
Both. I
Both
won't
of
even say
them.
one is better than the other.
Both
They were both
both
great,
of them. Both of
but
them.
they also
Because
had flaws. They had flaws,
yeah,
but it's our
I
job. It's our job to continue their mission. Yeah.
with research, I want to remind you, Thabo Mbeki is not wrong for what he did. He asked the question. He asked the question. Instead of us buying medications from you guys, give us the formula to create the ARV
Yeah, well,
in South
he wanted
Africa.
to create medication for HIV, which is cheap, and he got it from Brazil because the U.S. didn't want to do it because they don't care if
Very
we
true.
die.
That's why.
They don't
That's
care
why.
if we
That's
die.
why. In South Africa, most kids who study for medicine go to Cuba, right?
Yeah, because and let me say one thing: Cuba, despite the fact that Cuba doesn't have the money America has, it has a higher
Yeah.
literacy rate and it has better doctors, and they created a vaccine for COVID and HIV.
COVID-19.
Cuba
Yes.
is an African country, and most Cubans, Afarabi, you wouldn't know this. They have Yoruba roots,
Yes,
Yoruba
I know.
roots.
I know. I know.
Yeah,
I know.
Very
yeah.
true.
Even
Very
from
true.
their
So
music, from their
their
music.
music, Ao Bahia.
Exactly. Exactly.
So Salim, I don't want to cut you short. I want you to think I don't appreciate you, but we have to move on. But we're going to be
Thank you
back.
very much.
Are you able to make it on Friday? If you're not, no problem. But we're going to continue because South
We'll,
Africa's elections are coming next week. Can you come on Friday?
we'll, we'll communicate. I'll notify you.
And let me know, but I don't mind. But I'm going to see you because we're going to talk about the Führer's Germany's squad on Saturday.
Yes,
Thank you, and
yes.
I mean this from the bottom of my heart, Salim.
Thank you
Thank
very
you
much.
very much, and I believe that God brought me to you and brought you to our show. And this is Political Animals 2.0. It's gotten so much better because of young
Yeah.
men like you. Afalabi, wouldn't you agree? Afalabi, won't you say this is a very dynamic show?
Yes, it's very dynamic and I'm
Okay,
enjoying
so
every
Afalabi,
bit of it.
last thoughts on South Africa, on democracy, on Zuma, and on Malema,
Yes.
and even ANC, if ANC can wake up. But DA,
No,
get out. We
but
ain't talking about you today.
yeah, but one thing is obvious. The 2024 election could mark the first time the ANC loses its majority since the end of apartheid. So, and that
Yes.
will indicate a significant shift in South Africa political landscape. So the important thing now is that whatever party comes in, because the ANC has been accused of a lot of things, corruption at the heart, and the average South African tends to vote for the party and not for the individual. So whatever party wins the election has to come in and do a better job than whatever ANC has been doing. And so on this
Yes,
note,
yes.
I would like to round up from my
Okay, thank
side.
you. So I'm gonna jump in front of you as usual because I like the spotlight. What you said is true, but what I want to say is that ANC, EFF, and MK need to figure out how to work together. Personally, I like EFF. Salim likes MK, and I'm beginning to go to MK too because I love Uncle Zuma. I love him. I love him, and I mean it. And I love him because he stood against the U.S. when they wanted to get rid of Gaddafi, and he's also a balanced person. Um, and I still love ANC because ANC started the movement in the 1912s or 1913s, and I just want them to wake up. I want to say thank you to Afolabi, who's our producer and who worked very hard, and who also got a haircut.
Remember
I want to
Charles
thank,
Barkley. Remember Charles Barkley
yeah,
of
Charles. You look
Philadelphia
like Charles
7.
Barkley,
Yeah,
or who's the guy
Philadelphia
from?
76ers.
Also, who's the guy from the Fantastic Four, the Brick Man.
Oh, okay.
And I want to thank Salim Saeed, who's a very brilliant young man, 25 years old, who works hard and who's doing very good work in South Africa. He works, but he stows up on our show to give time. Salim, thank you very much. Give us a 10-second closeout. Yeah.
Thank you very much for hosting me. And I'm happy to be a part of the family, though. Regardless,
No. I'm happy
it's
that you're a
wonderful.
part of our family. So I love
It's
you guys.
wonderful.
So I'll see you guys on Saturday for Germany. Hopefully, I'll see you, Salim, on Friday for more political talk. We love
No
South
problem.
Africa. We love Nigeria. We love Libya. We love Burkina Faso. We love Congo. We love Cote d'Ivoire. We love all of Africa. We can't say every name. We even love America and Britain because they are human beings. We love the world.
Very
And we
true.
want to say that peace to you all from the political animals. Good night, sirs. Bye bye.
Much love.
Okay.